Hello, hello. Good morning, afternoon almost. It is Saturday. It's September 13th. I'm coming on live for a few minutes. It doesn't have to be too short, but I do have some stuff scheduled that I have to get to. But I found it imperative to come on today, right now, to talk about some things that I've been thinking, some videos that I've been watching, some articles I've been reading. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. You know the drill. Everything I say is for the YouTube. All my videos are made for YouTube. Yeah, I kind of got that out of sequence, didn't I? That's what happens. I'm routine oriented. I can't change it. Hit your like button. Make sure you're still subscribed in the event that you are subscribed. And if you're not, please consider doing so. Turn on your notification bell to ring and share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. And I'm sorry if it annoys you, but I do want to see if I can align that more better. That worked. How exciting. All right. Well, let's see who comes in. Hopefully I'll have some visitors to chat with. Otherwise, I do have a million notes. Like usually I have way more notes than I can get to because I really like interacting with you guys. You give me so many good ideas and I love to hear your ideas. So right now I wanted to, of course, focus on a lot of this tragedy around the Charlie Kirk assassination that was absolutely horrific, no matter who you are, no matter how you feel about the words that came out of that guy's mouth. Absolutely horrifying. It was a terrorist attack as far as I'm concerned. And I believe that it was designed that way. If somebody just wanted to unalive him, they didn't have to do it in front of 3,000 people videotaped. And YouTube, you didn't have to allow it to be all over the freaking internet for what, 48 hours? Are you serious? Like, I worry about dropping the F-bomb or the poop bomb. I mean, come on. I don't even use the word unalive starts with a K. And when I use it in print, I use an upside down exclamation point instead of an I. You know, all those little tricks that we do to be YouTube friendly because we care. You know, we both want to abide by the rules and we want to be appropriate. So why was that red rum allowed on the streets of YouTube for so long? You have got to be kidding me. That was intentional. That was by design. My mind is just blown. So I feel like it's imperative that we move quickly with spreading the word of what I feel like it's important for me to try to spread the word of what I see is going on. And what I see going on is the Epstein files are exploding. And there's a douchebag in the White House that should have resigned a long effing time ago. And he's never going to do it. You're going to have to pry the White House key out of his cold, unalived hands, right? Seriously. So one of my favorite little sayings is from a song, Michelle Schott, "The secret to a long life is knowing when it's time to go." I think it's also like an old Kenny Loggins, I don't even know, Kenny Loggins song, I think. Know when to hold up, right? Who is that? Is that Kenny Loggins? Let me just see. I hate being wrong and having to make corrections. I don't mind being wrong. I am not worried so much about being wrong. If I was, I would never come on YouTube, right? Let's see. Know when to hold up. Know when to walk away. Know when to run. What song is that? Kenny Rogers. That was the other name I was going to say. I'm not even kidding. DIY Drea. Hey, what's up? Happy Saturday to you too. And Helby. Hey, Jazz. I am listening to you whilst, I love that word, whilst out walking the dog. And of course, dog is capitalized because, backwards capitalized too. And they do belong hand in hand. You in and watching, and thank you for saying know when to walk away, know when to run. It's The Gambler, Kenny Rogers. It wasn't written by him, but it's important to know, like, to not overstay your welcome. And it's important to know when to wrap things up. Timing is everything. And Donnie is not only going to take himself down with all his effing antics, he's going to take down a lot of bad people with him. So for that, we can thank him. It's just that in the meantime, the longer they can drag it out, the longer they can stave off and postpone these Epstein emails now, the 18,000 Epstein emails that were released the day before yesterday or the day before that. It's all such a blur. Who on earth can keep track? But I believe that Charlie Kirk's assassination wasn't just to quiet him, which it was, because he was all about these Epstein files as well. Or I like to say e-files because I want to be careful with my freaking algorithm. Other people can, put up videos of red rum, but I can't even say the word not backwards without being concerned. I mean, what the F? Okay, so trying to stay focused. And how are you guys today? It is a beautiful Saturday and just very grateful to see you and to have a channel and to have the opportunity to speak. So thank you for listening. It makes all the difference in the world. I certainly don't want to be talking to myself. I don't want to be talking in a vacuum, and I don't want to be talking in an echo chamber. It's fine to have differing opinions, like Charlie Kirk. Completely different opinions than mine from the ground up. However, what happened to him was a terrorist attack. So I think that it served two purposes. It quieted him, maybe three, probably more. Quieted him from saying release the Epstein files, which, by the way, he was back to saying since the birthday book was released. So for like the last 48 hours of his life, he was back to like probably calling up dear leader and saying, Donnie, why won't you just release the damn things? Like this blind spot that he had of what seems to some of us so obvious why he won't release the damn things. It's not because he's protecting his friends. The man doesn't have any friends, and he doesn't give a crap about anybody but himself anyway. He would gladly throw them all under the bus, except that he's the one leading the pack. In my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's a saint with a little halo over his head who is like, no, I'm going to protect the kids from you evil, bad grown-ups. You sick freaks. Okay, where's my train of thought? So it quieted him down. It was a terrorist maneuver to send a severe signal to the world. This can happen to anybody in broad daylight. It's also to amp up this whole thing about our country's so dangerous, therefore we need to have military, National Guard in every city across the country. We need to have a police state. We need to turn the military on its own people. No, we don't. The most dangerous person in this country right now, as far as I'm concerned, is the one sitting behind the Resolute desk with his disgusting hands like this. Creepy AF, hiding a big black bruise. It's okay if you don't want us to see your bruise, put your little weird, not skin-colored patch over it, or put your hand in your pocket for all we care, or keep your hand under the desk. do whatever you need to do. You know, you could like pull your sleeves down the way teenagers do with their sweat jackets. I mean, whatever it is, put a tattoo over it, you know, like a pretty little sticker tattoo. Seriously, we don't care about the bruise on the guy's hand. What we care about is his dishonesty and his way past the point of being fit for office, right? I mean, those of us who are opposed to him. And then, of course, there's people that aren't opposed to him, and they're free to have their feelings about it too. And to be absolutely transparent and honest, I understand the dude's charisma and appeal and his ability to be like a cult leader and make you blind to what is right in front of your face. I totally get it. I don't hold it against anybody. I wish that they would see the light, and I sometimes wonder, like, what is it going to take? And for being completely transparent, I think a lot of times at this point, people are just embarrassed to say they were wrong, so they're just not going to. I mean, I'm sure there's other reasons as well, but I think that that's one of them. But what do I know? I'm just a girl, right? So when I speak, I often do get very passionate and caught up in what I'm saying. And I say things that I think might be true, that I hope aren't true. And I hope by saying it that it'll like jinx it, and then I'll be proven wrong and I'll be made a fool of. And I'm fine with being made a fool of in my fight for justice and freedom and democracy. I am absolutely fine with anybody mocking me and laughing me and me being completely stupid. Like, that's not a problem. What's a problem for me is all of us losing our ability to have free speech, which I do think we're very, very close to. Right now, if you say anything derogatory about Charlie Kirk, you can be cut off social media. I think it's just in the last 24 hours or so that Dear Leader has said that they will cut off your ability to get your money, your own money. They'll cut off your ability to get that. If you are not from this country, they will deport you. Obviously, they can deport you to any effing country that they want, not necessarily the country that you came from. They can put you in one of these freaking Auschwitz camps. That those camps aren't just for people that aren't from this country. Those camps are for people from this country that dissent. Obviously, they have not beaten around the bush with that fact, and it should be abundantly clear. And that's the goal. The goal is to do Hitler on steroids. That is the goal. These people, in my opinion, love Hitler and are trying to do that more better. I don't even like saying the H word. I don't even like saying the H word. So there, can I take it back and bleep it out? Grateful as well, suffering a migraine for the past 6 days, but love listening to your opinions. Well, Drea, I hope that I can help clear your migraine. I don't know what your history is with migraines. A lot of headaches are caused by dehydration. I know somebody who doesn't drink water, but he drinks a lot of diet drinks. And diet drinks have the artificial flavor and they can dehydrate you. So the sodium is also really bad for your health. So I don't know if that's part of your consumption, whether it's diet drinks or the drinks with sugar in them. You should only have one a day max, apparently, allegedly, because of sodium. Not because of the sugar, but because of the sodium. I mean, the sugar is a whole nother issue. And, you know, I'm completely against artificial sweeteners. I'd rather do straight up pure cane sugar than any artificial sweetener any day of the week. Even that stevia crap, I can't stand it. Anyway, but I also wonder, and I'm, you know, if I'm giving you unsolicited advice, you can tell me to shut the F up because there's nothing worse. But sometimes it's good to just get a nugget if you're interested and if it's helpful. I believe personally that some migraines can be caused by forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do. And that can be maybe like going to somebody's wedding that you don't feel like going to, or, you know, just not interacting with people the way you really want to interact with them, but trying to put on a mask, trying to make yourself go to work when you need a mental health day. Those kinds of things I really think can create the migraine. And sometimes it's a pattern like built up over a lifetime. It's not just like one day or one event or 1 week. Those are just my opinions. I know that there's all kinds of things that can cause migraines though. And I'm really sorry that you're suffering from one. Let me get on with my stuff because I have so much I want to share with you guys. And again, I really appreciate you being here. Very, very grateful. I'm trying to give this a go with doing my YouTube full time with my full focus. And so I'm not going to ask for financial donations. I'm going to ask for likes and shares and subscriptions. However, if anybody is interested in financial donations, I would be very, very much appreciative. And I've got the links usually in every description of my videos and in the description of my channel. I think I have like PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee and one other. I'll think of it. Anyway, you know, you can always do like the super chats and stuff. Those take longer to see. The like PayPal and the other app, those like go into your account immediately. So yeah, it's nice just to have people listening. So really don't sweat it. But just if people are interested, I want to put that out there that I will graciously accept donations. You know, I used to like never, ever, ever talk about it. When I started this channel, I never thought I was going to try to make a dime off of it. And, you know, I was working full time. I was working like 50 hours a week, and we won't get into it. Anyway, thank goodness I quit that job. I had to be out of my house before 6:30 every morning. It was the worst. I mean, and it's just hard when you're parenting, and, you know, my husband works nights, so trying to trade things off. Anyway, where are we? Do you think Charlie Kirk's shooter could be an incel? And do you think that that's really his shooter? Is it Tyler Robinson? Is that his name? The 22-year-old young man. And if it is him, I don't think he'll ever talk and turn in the people that were doing their little hand signals behind him, you know, with the hat and the baseball and the, those guys were obviously communicating to the shooter. Oh, and then there was the cell phone that was like right behind his neck. I don't know if he was like shining the light to let him know where to shoot or what. For all I know, there's technology that the phone is interacting with the, you know, the periscope, the aiming device. And so they can like maybe lock on the phone, and then he's putting the phone here, and then the thing can, how on earth could it be that accurate from that far away and under a tent? Like not just under a tent, but like deep inside under a tent. That's crazy. One bullet. I think all three of those guys had their bulletproof vests on. We know Charlie did. He always did. But I think the two guys doing the hand signals, and I think the two guys doing the hand signals are his security people that turned on him. There's no doubt in my mind that they were communicating with the shooter. There's absolutely no doubt. And I've put links to videos that show that very, very well, explicitly, like in the descriptions of my videos from the last few days. And I'll put one again today. But I also do want to talk about some light stuff, because that's so heavy. That's so dark to have your own people that you're trusting your life with turn on you. Thank you. I got my degree in nutrition I'm with you 100%. I'll be sure to drink more water always. I know it's hard to remember sometimes. It's hormonal and my job. I needed a mental health break for sure. Oh, if you feel like sharing what you do for work, I would love to hear. I know Anna Bees, who's not here yet that we know of, she might be. She's a nurse, and I think nurses have one of the hardest jobs, and probably, in my opinion, one of the jobs that might make a person prone to migraines. But yeah, lots of jobs will, right? And it doesn't even have to be a job. It can just be your kind of your internal struggle with yourself of how to handle a situation. And thank you for sharing. And yeah, hormonal. I don't know if that's like periods or perimenopausal or what, but yeah, mental health breaks are absolutely essential, and drinking our water is absolutely essential, and it is hard to keep up. So yeah, this stuff with the shooter maybe being an incel, like nobody's talked about that. Nobody's talked about him being punished, capital punishment. They have capital punishment in Utah, and he would certainly be a candidate for it if everything is the way he's confessing. We don't know that it's a real confession. We don't know. But let's just assume that it is a real confession. I don't think he's going to be ratting out anybody, because they never do. In the event that they did, not just for themselves, but for everybody that they care about, including their pets. And that kind of goes without saying. They don't even need to be directly threatened. That's just understood. But do you think that Cash and his people are going to interview the guys with the baseball signals? It was the hat, it was the ear, it was the arm. And then the one who did like the punching move, the guy in the dark shirt, because the other guy was in a white shirt with the white cap. That guy may or may not be the same actor that was Secret Service during the ketchup on the face fake assassination attempt incident. I'm just going to call it a fake assassination attempt incident because I believe that's what it was, for so many reasons. But, maybe I should just put a tampon on my ear and shut the F up about it, right? So I woke up this morning to a wonderful Paula Poundstone video that I already put a link in the description to. And that's where I got the screenshot for my thumbnail. And that screenshot I want to share with you. It's a photograph of our president at the White House on Easter Sunday, interacting with a little kid and showing him his assassination trading card with the red stuff all over it. That's what he's got in his hand, and that's what he's showing the little kid. And he's got the grossest look on his face. And of course, the little kid looks excited. It looks like a 3.5, maybe 4-year-old boy, adorable. And he's got the freaking president talking to him and showing him a trading card. Maybe he was telling him he was going to give it to him. Easter Sunday, an assassination trading card to a toddler? This man baby toddler is so out of control. He who said he was not going to discuss the assassination attempt because it was so painful. Okay, that assassination attempt was made on July 13th, 2024 in Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania. July 13th, 2024 was the day before the second anniversary of Ivana tumbling down a flight of stairs to her unalivement and then getting put into the mud on the Bedminster golf course without landscaping. The golf course of her disgusting ex-husband who assaulted her in that most intimate way, allegedly, the night before she was leaving for a vacation to Bali. towards the end of their divorce in 1989, and she was taking a trip with her friend. Last name is Estes. I'll think of the first name, maybe. The husband, the friend's husband, had been one of the 3 corporate executives that passed away in the helicopter crash from New York City to Atlantic City. That dear leader lied and said that he almost went on that same plane crash. And he did that for the sole purpose of getting attention, because he's an attention whore. When 3 people, actually 5 people lost their lives. 3 of them were close friends of his. 2 of them were the flight crew. And when Ivana was going on this trip to Bali with her friend, the widowed Mrs. Etess, I think is her last name, like Etess. She was packing for the trip, and her estranged, almost ex-husband came into her room and attacked her. And she wrote about it in her book. And she went on the trip, probably completely traumatized. Again, another like terrorist attack. I think he's a terrorist, 100% through and through. And then, so that was 1989. In 1990, I think, was when the divorce was final. And I believe her father unexpectedly passed away at like age 63. And her father was not only super close with her estranged husband, he was also who, were they Czechoslovakian? I think they were Czech. But the affiliation with Daddy Vladdy's type of people, we'll just leave it at that. So Ivana's father served as an agent for, I want to say 27 years, but I could be wrong. Numbers are always hard online. They're hard anyway, right? And then in 1987 was when dear leader became not only affiliated with that Daddy Vladdy type of stuff. And of course, Daddy Vladdy wasn't in the position that he's in now, but he was also an agent. But that just happens to be the same year he became friends with the horrible monster who I call Little E. They became friends in 1987. So is that a coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences, especially in situations like that. I don't think it's really the shooter. ODIY, Drea. I think we just need to be careful of that. Like I really respect you saying that, because I think that is absolutely a possibility. There's always weirdos that confess to things that they didn't do. And, you know, we've got the whole backstory of how his father confronted him and blah, blah, blah. You know, for the sake of argument, I'm going to just kind of go with let's say that it is the shooter, but I think you're absolutely right. It might not be. It very well might not be, but he definitely had other people working with him, not just with the hand signals, but how did he get to be such a sharpshooter, that 22-year-old kid? I mean, come on. Yeah. So easy for me to lose my train of thought right now because I'm so excited to talk to you guys. So yeah, could he be an incel, and could he be a candidate for the capital punishment? Because when the radical right-wingers were running with this being a Democrat, they were yelling capital punishment from the rooftops. And I heard somebody say yesterday that they believe that the government knew for about 24 hours that was the guy, or that they were going to pretend that was the guy. If that's the case, like DIY Drea thinks might be, and you very well could be correct on that. But before coming out with that information, they wanted to run with the hate as far as they can. And even that weird AI video of Trumpster Fire sitting there at the Resolute desk with his gross hands over one another, and the weird, like, overly saturated colors and just the weird glitch of his hands and all that. Like, maybe that was him, but it was like an AI filter or something. I don't know. But that whole little, like, 10-minute hate speech, he did less than 12 hours before them illuminating us all with the information that they had somebody that they thought was the guilty party. So that's why they were holding out on that information, was to continue to push their vile vitriol and to work up their MAGA base. These people are really sick. And then to accuse the Democrats of being like these violent animals, it's like, that's just not usually the case. Like, anybody of any political persuasion could be a violent animal. Like, I don't think it has that much to do with your political beliefs. I could be incorrect about that, but if anything, it's the radical right, that the gaslighting nation that we live in, with this gaslighting doofus of a failure of a leader, an absolute vile failure of a leader who just lies every effing day. So I really believe that he helped make that happen in Utah that day. And I believe that Vance flying there and delivering the remains back to Arizona with his wife on Air Force Two, to me, that's guilt. That's a confession. And saying that they're going to honor him with the highest medal of all, like, non-military honors, also a confession of guilt, in my opinion. And like I said, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know that I'm right. I know what I think I know, and I have pretty good instinct and intuition. But of course, I'm not always right. Of course not. But yesterday, after my video, where, the last few days I've been drawing the correlation, the parallels, and the connection between the beautiful, the 23-year-old model, the Ukrainian model in North Carolina, who was hit in the neck with a sharp object to her ceasing to breathe, instantaneously just keeled over by a assailant who was not white. And then a day later, we have El Presidente holding up the picture. I think the picture was like on one piece of paper. It had her beautiful face on one side, and then this black man on the other side that did it. Again, in a videotape, surveillance videotape, where you could watch the entire thing, and they haven't taken that down. That's still online. Why are you able to watch a real life red room on the YouTube that says, I can't say red room backwards? What? Make it make sense, MFs. Come on. Come on. You're not doing a very good job with your gaslighting, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. So yeah, it was just like in the last 24 hours that I realized that the beautiful Yugoslavian woman, whose name I'll try to say, that she was, her attack was the same spot as Charlie Kirk's attack, but they both slumped over and were obviously not going to make it in such a quick few seconds which is not normal. It takes a while. Even dear Meredith Kircher, Amanda Knox's alleged victim that had her had that happen to her in the same place in 2007. Even she didn't pass away from loss of the red stuff. She drowned in her red stuff. It takes a while. The life doesn't just go that quickly usually in situations like that. But with Charlie Kirk and with the Ukrainian, it went really quick, which made me wonder if they could have had poison on the weapons to make sure that they went really quick. Let me see if I can find her name without Googling. I probably am going to have to Google to find it. Yeah, there's too many pages. But like I always say, I always want to remember the victims' names. And hers is a tough one. The Ukrainian woman who was stabbed in the neck on public transportation in North Carolina. And her uncle has been speaking out. So Irna, is that how you say her name? I heard somebody else say it and it sounded like they were saying it right. Ernia. Let's try Ernia Zaruska. I think it started with a like more of the I sound. Irina. I think it's Irina. I'm making it so complicated. It's Iryna. I think it's Irina Zaruska. Beautiful, beautiful young woman, 23. So in Charlotte on the transit system train. Absolutely horrific. And, you know, I really think people missed talking about it right away on YouTube, true crime and that kind of thing, simply because we're so overloaded with so much information. I think that people care, absolutely, and people want to focus on it. It's just there's so much mayhem going on, again, by design. Anna Bees is here. Hi, Jez, Hell B, DYI, and everyone. I was talking about you earlier, just saying how I think nursing is one of the hardest jobs there is. It can really take a toll on your physical health and your mental health when you're giving that much care to other people. I mean, doing that whether you're a professional nurse or not, but I think especially that the nursing field is just one of the most stressful and one of the most noble. Absolutely one of the most noble. So the deflecting and the covering up that the Trumpster fire is doing, and just sort of hiding behind denial and anger, but not really grief. You guys have probably seen when he was asked how he was holding up with his friend being pew-pewed like that and taken out. And he said, oh, me, I'm great. Oh, let's talk about my ballroom now. Excuse me? Like, unless he was just like so welled up with tears that he was afraid he was going to break down and cry in front of everybody if he didn't change the subject. But I seriously doubt that was the case. Again, it's another indicator to me of guilt that he doesn't want to talk about Charlie Kirk because he's got a lot to hide there. A lot to hide. But also, Charlie Kirk was immediately gathered up by his security crew and loaded into a black SUV and whisked off. I find that sus AF. Whether they knew that he was already gone and that there were no life-saving measures that could help him or not, I believe that was very intentional to destroy the crime scene and to destroy any evidence. And I really wonder if there's any poison in his system from the slug that went in him. So you guys have probably heard by now that the things that were inscribed on the shell casings, that all of those things relate to Nick Fuentes and his weird little group called like Groypa, GROYPA something. I'm not even sure. I didn't bother writing that down. But Nick Fuentes was an enemy of Charlie Kirk. And so people who love Nick Fuentes are like way more radical right wing than even Charlie Kirk. And they thought that Charlie Kirk was like not radical enough. And so they were at war, allegedly. But also the things that were inscribed on the shell casings were related to some specific video game. And so that's what like the little arrow things were. Like those indicate something about like a bomb dropping in the video game, and just all of those things like Chow, Bella, and noticing a bulge. Like I think that some of those things were like the noticing the bulge is like a reference to transphobia, and like how do you spot the trans people in public is you notice the bulge. And then if you're reading this, you're gay. I think that ties in with the Nick Fuentes and the video game and all that stuff. So all of those things that were inscribed on those shell casings right away when they found them, Nancy Mace and her disgusting people wanted to say, oh, obviously it was a trans person that did this. Like the trans community doesn't have enough hate and violence against them already. What irresponsible freaks. Like that woman needs to go. Like she needs to be forced to resign. But first, I think we need to get the freaking president to be forced to resign. And yeah, said Anna B says, oh, thank you. It's definitely a hard job. Well, and it's wonderful that you do it just so long as you can remember to take care of yourself, because I know that that is one of the hardest things. Again, as mothers and caretakers and women, it's kind of gender wide. It can be, it's not gender specific, but I think it is, lends itself more to females. Females tend to be more caretakers and more nurturing and putting others first. And that's wonderful so long as you're taking care of yourself. So it's always good to take a step back and remember before it's too late, right? Before it becomes a crisis and you end up like Donnie with freaking muffin top cankles and black bruises on your hands and puffy eyes and a drooping face. Like, why can't the people around him make him take care of himself or take care of him? I mean, I'm sure he's so effing cantankerous, and if they try, they'll get punished, they'll get fired, they'll get cut off. I mean, the answer's in the question. Anyway, back to the black SUV rushing Charlie Kirk off. That was weird. Unless they were doing that out of safety to keep him from getting pew-pewed again. But no, you don't destroy a crime scene. And again, unless they're rushing him off thinking that there's some life-saving measures. But I think it was really obvious to anybody who's seen the video and everybody who was there that the life was drained out of him instantaneously. Like, pretty much the second that thing pierced his skin. Absolutely vile. So Aaron Parnas and Lev Parnas, you guys have heard me speaking about Lev Parnas recently. I did a video a week or two ago. Who is Lev Parnas and why should we care? And we need to focus on him more than ever. That man knows everything. He was one of the inside people with the MAGAs and with the Dear Leader, one of his top fixers for a long time. He did hard time for some of the things that he did as a fixer, and he came out a new person. And I believe him 100,000%. He's absolutely a new person. Some of what helped him see the light is his son, Aaron Parnas, who, I don't know if Aaron Parnas is affiliated with Midas Touch. He might be. But I'd already been a fan of Aaron Parnas for a while. He's one of the content creators that I really like. And then it took me a while to realize that he was the son of this guy, Lev Parnas, who I started to really like a few weeks ago when I started seeing him as a guest on some of the channels that I watch. And now I'm watching his channel too. So when Charlie Kirk was getting his start, Lev knew him well, and Lev really respected him and liked him, and he wanted his son Aaron to be just like him. Especially, I think Aaron may or may not have finished college, but he started his YouTube thing, and Lev thought, oh, great, you can be just like Charlie Kirk. And Aaron was like, no, actually, Dad, that's not the direction I was going to go with it, which was devastating to Lev at the time. He was just like, what? You're not going to be another Charlie Kirk? Why would you want to be anything else? But Aaron had his own ideas. And his son is part of what helped show Lev the light that he was misled and misguided. And they are really cool people, in my opinion. So I say check them out. Absolutely check them out. Check out the Paula Poundstone. Like, she's a funny woman. She's been a funny comedian for decades. She took a lot of abuse to her reputation and her career when she was arrested for drunk driving, and she struggled. And she's become a much better person for it too in the end. But she's doing some amazing work on these shorts on her YouTube channel, and there's a link in the description already, where she's like, oh, hey there, Mr. President, I'm just over here playing with my cat and I wanted to talk to you about something. And it's really funny. Like, she's sharp. And as I'm mentioning how sharp and funny she is, I gotta mention Christopher Titus. You guys know Christopher Titus. He's amazing. And his YouTube channel is amazing. So yeah, what else do I have on this page that I want to make sure that I mention? Peter Mandelson, appointed by the Prime Minister, Peter Duncan Smith. So I can remember some of what I was thinking when I wrote these notes. Peter Mandelson is part of the European government who just now had to step down, I believe, because of his being named in the e-files. He was forced to resign, I think, just a couple days ago. Let me see. Peter Mandelson. British politician, lobbyist, and diplomat. And here he is. Should I go with the one that says Trumpster fire next to it? British ambassador to U.S. Peter Mandelson fired over little e links. And here's the BBC 3 hours ago. The BBC is a really good news source in my estimation. So this article from 3 hours ago says, with T's state visit days away, blame game begins over Mandelson scandal. What a week, what a mess. A senior MP is not the only one in disbelief at the latest. You couldn't make it up. Mishap for this government. How Downing Street handled revelations about Lord Mandelson's friendship with the wealthy torpedo Jeffrey E. was the first test of the new senior team in number 10. The uncharitable view is they flunked it by not acting quickly enough, putting the prime minister's face on the calamity by sending him into the bear pit of prime minister's questions with a staunch defense of his man in Washington. They knew there were allegations about his relationship with E. The direction of travel seemed set. The Mendelsohn would likely have to go. I was laughing because a text came through from Indeed, like they're just dying to hire me, huh? Which, yeah, I'm joking, they're not. The even more uncomfortable factor is that last week the prime minister defended another colleague, Angela Rayner, when, you guessed it, the direction of travel in Westminster seems set, and she would likely have to go. It's undetermined the prime minister's own authority and blown the chance of a quick autumn reset for Labour when the party was desperately trying to turn the page. The more generous argument made by Sir Keir's allies, he's been let down by two different people in two different ways and has had to front up to clean up after their different messes. Keir is frustrated and a bit angry because he's having to deal with the conduct of others rather than show what he is trying to do, one source says. Another says he hired someone who didn't tell him the truth. Number 10 doesn't imagine that the damage of the last fortnight of farce. I love when people use fortnight. It means 2 weeks, right? That's what Trumpster Fire should start saying. You know how he's always like, we'll have it for you in a couple of weeks. In a couple of weeks, we'll know. He should start saying fortnightly. That would be hilarious. Put one in the chat if you agree. I'll have to check her out. Oh yeah, Paula Poundstone, especially the one that I put in there. But yeah, she's brilliant. I'm excited to watch more. I watched a few of them. It just came up in my feed, and I thought I recognized her. She doesn't have any makeup on, and I've never seen her without makeup. So I was like, I think that's Paula Poundstone, and it was, and very well worth the click. Also, Park Rose Permaculture. I know you guys are probably on to her already. It's taken me a while because, she's got the whole Portlandia thing going. And I was just like, oh, God, no. But she's killing it, too. She's really good. Where was I? Number 10 doesn't imagine that the damage of the last fortnight of a farce is limited to those who have departed government. And as they absorb the scale of the embarrassment over Mandelson's friendship with little E, new details over who knew what and when are emerging all the time. That's always the most important thing in a scandal, is who knew what, and most importantly, when did they know it? Westminster sources have suggested the prime minister himself had raised questions about Mandelson's links with little E during an initial vetting process carried out by the cabinet's office before he was given the job. But then he was checked out again by the Foreign Office once he'd been appointed. So where did it all begin? Even before Labour won the election in 2024, there had been a desire in Sir Keir's circle to look beyond the traditional diplomatic appointment for the ambassador to the White House, one of the government's plum jobs. They had noted how the former Australian Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd, was sent to D.C. and determined that a politician could be the right choice. With his experience as a trade commissioner, an impressive spider's web of contacts, and respected political nous, Mandelson was soon determined to be an excellent potential fit. Sir Keir's powerful chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, believed there were only two qualified candidates for the role and was enthusiastic about Mandelson. Before the final decision was made last autumn, the cabinet's office was asked, as it would be for any such candidate, to consider whether he was fit to be offered the job. I know this is kind of boring stuff, but I think it's important that we go over a little government lesson of, British Parliament here. So forgive me. You watch Park Rose, and Christina Talks. She usually does shorts, but is very good. I'll have to write that one down. I don't think I've even heard of Christina Talks. Politics Girl is also good. We need to hear from more women, I think, on YouTube, and especially in politics. Because the women's are smarter, not to be sexist or anything, but come on. And men have a head start in everything, including YouTube, and especially politics. I ran for a local office a few times over the last decade or so, and there's very few women that run in local politics in Ohio, period. Very few. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway, not my cup of tea. But it is a good experience to kind of dip your toe in it. So it definitely made me more passionate about democracy and corruption. So let's see, where was I? Friends with little e, so it was obvious those links would need to be considered. I'm told to file on Mandelson for the Cabinet Office's Propriety and Ethics team, whose job it is to know where the bodies are buried in Whitehall, was presented to the Prime Minister that included information about his relationship with the disgraced millionaire. On reading this file, Sir Keir had 3 questions he wanted to clarify with the peer, a number 10 source tells me. Why had he continued his friendship with little e after he was first convicted and not broken contact with them? Why had he stayed at one of little e's houses when the financier was in jail? Am I already getting close to an hour? And was he a founding citizen of an ocean conservation charity that little e had backed? The trio of questions was put to Mandelson in an email from Sir Keir's Chief of Staff, McSweeney, on his behalf. The peer, I'm told, replied to those questions in an email in which Downing Street sources now say he was economical with the truth. That's hilarious. Man, the British. That's one of the best things I've ever heard. Economical with the truth. I got to write that one down. Seriously. If I don't write it down, I'll never remember. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll remember that. Well, I can, and I try to review my videos. So economical with the truth. But even if I review it, I might be like, oh, I don't need to write it down. I'll remember because it's so funny. It's understood Mandelson believes that he was truthful and frank about his association with little e and told number 10 that he had not stayed in little e's Manhattan apartment in 2009 while little e was in prison. Another source confirmed that he told Downing Street that he had not stayed there. Court documents revealed in 2023, little e told his private banker, that's not possible. Oh, maybe he is alive. Maybe they did fake it. So he passed away in 2019. So is this a typo? Court documents revealed in 2023. Oh, no. Court documents revealed it in 2023. Okay, I got it. Epstein told his private banker that Mandelson would be staying at the property. Mandelson had never explicitly denied or confirmed he did, although it has been reported that he had no recollection of doing so. It's worth noting none of those issues, the possible house stay, the charity, or the continued friendship, were discovered during the vetting process. Right. They had been reported in previous years. Right. So they just pretended to not know. But the guarantees relayed to the Prime Minister by Mandelson were considered sufficient to be worth the gamble of giving him the job. Once the appointment was then made, sources suggested the developed vetting process then kicked in under the auspices of the Foreign Office. The normal process for government appointments is dependent on the job being given and the sensitivity of the material and information to be handled. But there's scarcely a job with a higher level of trust required than the White House ambassador. That's in their country. In our country, I'd say, being in charge of the country and king of the White House, that's a pretty important job where trust and the person not lying, especially 30,000 times in a 4-year administration of proven lies. Okay, back to this. Okay, there's scarcely a job with a higher level of trust required than the White House ambassador, given the two countries' links on security, defense, trade, and intelligence. I'm told nothing was flagged to number 10 as a result of the DV process, which would have involved an in-person interview, which is the case. Ought to have been completely forensic, but they must have used the wrong lens, according to another senior figure. OMG, the way they cover. Oh, they just used the wrong lens. Like, yeah, well, they looked into it. They just had the wrong lens. But before I forget, let me mention that crap that dear leader said about domestic violence a few days ago, and how when a man gets into a little fight with his wifey, that shouldn't be considered a crime. Holy crap, was that a dog whistle? I don't even know if that was a dog whistle. I mean, that was like not even thinly veiled. That was disgusting. People who commit domestic violence are some of the most dangerous people to anyone in the world, not just their domestic partner. But if that's how they treat the person that they care about the most, then how do they treat the people that they could give a flying F about? Come on. Or authority, especially authority. Let's see. The wrong lens. Unlike the PET file, Downing Street would not receive the results of such a process as a matter of course, even in an extremely high-profile appointment. The DV process is a standalone routine, and Downing Street sources insist that they weren't made aware of any problems, so everything went ahead. The upshot? Even though there were 2 different processes checking out Mandelson's background, which publicly was known to include dealings with a notorious wealthy Rex offender, neither appeared to have turned up anything major, nor the now notorious emails which investigate reporters were able to locate recently. This is exactly like here. Exactly like here. One Whitehall insider told me it was, quote, staggering. Either they skipped the process of any basic due diligence, or they did that process and missed the obvious questions, or they knew and they didn't give a flying F. Ding, 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 ding. No one involved in making the appointment cared enough to check whether all the risk had been identified in appointing a man who had twice previously had to resign over his judgment. Careless doesn't cover it. The government has repeatedly said this week that part of the problem was the messages between Mandelson and little e were from a defunct email address. So I think these emails from the day before yesterday that I think Charlie Kurtz Red Rum was a distraction from were what caused the forced resignation. And we need to do the same. Yet a senior Whitehall figure tells me it would have been possible to locate those messages had more questions been asked and forensic background digging been done. Neither Downing Street nor the Cabinet Office wanted to comment. Imagine that. Not just because U.S. President Donald Trump appeared to enjoy his company, praising his beautiful accent on camera recently in the Oval Office, but also because the UK had got its trade deal. The state visit was all about to unfold in its pomp and glory. Sir Keir appeared, unlike many other global leaders, to have managed to build a warm and functional relationship with the most powerful man in the Western world. All of that, at least partly down to the smooth talking and politicking of the ambassador. OMG. So gross. What he and number 10 were enjoying as a successful tenure was to be suddenly disrupted when the peer featured in what's known as the birthday book. It features a cozy message. Mendelsohn branding Epstein his best pal. I thought Donnie was his best pal. Man, they should have a sword fight over that, and not the kind with the metal sharp objects, the other kind. If you know where I'm going with that, it's completely inappropriate, but still, you know they want to. Mendelsohn branded Epstein his best pal, and a photograph of the two in which Mendelsohn is wearing a bathrobe. Oh, how charming. Not. As long as that thing stays closed. And what was to prove more serious, reporters at the news agency Bloomberg managed to get hold of a cache of Little E's emails, which included his communications with Mendelsohn over months and years. In an attempt to get ahead of the story, Mendelsohn predicted that a whole slew of contact between the two was about to emerge into public view, and he described the revelations to the Sun as, quote, very embarrassing. Donnie, are you listening? I'm sure he watches my videos, right? This sent alarm bells clanging back in Whitehall. He hadn't shared the contents of the emails with Downing Street and has been dismissive, claiming there was nothing new, nothing to see over here, folks, in the stories emerging about his friendship with Little E earlier in the week, sources suggest. But late on Tuesday, that's just this past Tuesday, this article is 3 hours old, the government was aware that more damaging allegations were coming and contacted the peer to ask what was going on. So Monday night was when that whole birthday book was uploaded to the cloud for everyone to see. Everyone in the country, everyone in the world. Everyone even on other planets, right? If they have access to the cloud. Let's see. The government was aware of more damaging allegations were coming and contacted the peer to ask what was going on. On Wednesday morning, 3 days ago, Mendelsohn's prediction of there being more to come was first reported just as in the normal routine. Number 10 was planning the day and preparing the prime minister for his weekly PMQs, prime minister questions, bout in the Commons. At noon, before government had heard back from Lord Mendelsohn, the prime minister gave a staunch public defense of him in a move that now looks foolhardy. Foolhardy. Another great British word. I love it. Fortnightly and foolhardy. But when Mendelsohn did reply after PMQs, the government didn't think his answers were good enough. The prime minister's chief of staff, McSweeney, was called out of a meeting in a secure room in Whitehall where mobile communications are forbidden. So that would be like the Situation Room. Sources suggest the decision was made soon after to ask Mendelsohn to resign. He refused, trying to brazen it out. Sources suggest he kept telling everyone it would be fine. Who does that remind you of? Oh my goodness, the bombastic hubris, man. On Wednesday, number 10 was also trying to weigh up the impact of losing the ambassador on the crucial state visit of the U.S. president just days away, and also what the legal ramifications would be of forcing Mendelsohn out. But later Wednesday night, the full extent of those emails were published by Bloomberg, and the prime minister read the exchanges in all their gory glory. We're headed down the same path, you guys. Keir was furious, I'm told, and on Thursday morning he made the formal decision with the foreign secretary that if Labour's veteran fixer wouldn't go out on his own accord, he'd be sacked. Oh, man. On Friday, the prime minister was working at his country retreat. That's yesterday. Chequers, I think is how you say it, Chequers, mulling over his conference speech for what Sir Keir has picked up the pen in a more proactive way than in times gone by, aware this is a moment when the pressure to lift the mood and show his worth is intense. After a first year in office that disappointed many in the Labour Party and left them in the polling doldrums, his big moment on the podium at conference was already set to be a high-wire act. After this chaotic fortnight, there's one of my favorite words again, it's fortuitous we are heading to a conference and we can grab the mic, one insider said. Another senior figure told me, I don't see problems that aren't fixable. But when it comes to Lord Mendelssohn, the clamor may take some time to fade. This isn't over. Number 10 is in total denial, a party insider said. I think Trumpster Fire's in denial too. And he might not be in denial. He's just trying to buy time, because if he can get all of his military operations in order to take over all of our cities, then the jig is up anyway. And it doesn't matter. Like, you could have pictures of him doing things with youngsters that it wouldn't matter if he's in full H mode. Adolf. A different prominent source told me the Mendelssohn mess is just another big misstep. Although Sir Keir, there is also growing disquiet. There's a great British word, disquiet. Noise about the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, McSweeney. It's no secret he was keen to appoint Mendelssohn, even though he and the Prime Minister did have questions about his relationship with Little E. Both sources dispute he was trying to save the U.S. ambassador from his fate this week. It said he agreed on Wednesday lunchtime Mendelssohn had to go before traveling to Brussels for meetings, leaving him out of the country when the final call to sack him was made. When politicians are down, powerful staffers often become a target. Opposition politicians and critics on the inside can even appear to enjoy the hunt for someone to blame. No way. I'm going to blow this candle out. Just because it smells so good. It smells even better when you blow it out. I do need to get to the end of this article and wrap up shortly. Where are we? However, McSweeney is central to Sir Keir's leadership. If there's no Morgan, there's no Starmer, one senior Labour figure said, warning MPs warming up to point the finger to be careful about where it all might lead. Yeah, because it can point right back at you, and that's why people don't do it, because they all have dirt on each other. After a dreadful start of what should have been a shiny new political season, one cabinet minister says in sorrow, we have made the right big strategic calls, but there's just no way that we should be in this position after a year. But others believe all is not lost. Like, we're coming up on a year, you guys. Gross. Like, we need this crap to come to a screeching halt. But others believe all is not lost. Just as Labour slumped in popularity at breakneck speed after winning the election, senior figures suggest their fortunes could improve dramatically quickly too. Volatility in politics can be government's enemy, but also potentially be their friend. Yet right now, it's hard to see where labor can find much comfort. There is little option but to keep going, to focus on what insiders characterize as, quote, good announcements coming in the next few weeks, presenting a huge opportunity for the prime minister to shift the dial and boost the party's confidence. But one minister joked after a shocking fortnight for the government. 3 times they use that word in this article. I love it. I keep thinking maybe it's all a very detailed dream and I'll wake up, but then no, this is reality and we just have to get on with it. They certainly do. So that's the whole article. Damn. I wasn't even planning on reading that, but I will link it up in the description. Let's see. I could probably do that real quick right now. My goodness. Let me see. I don't think I've ever linked anything up while I'm on live. Let me see if I can. I think I can. Maybe not. No, I think I will be able to. I think I know how. Like this. Yes, I got it. It's in there. It is in there. So I've got the Paula Poundstone thing, and then I've got that. Awesome. I am so excited to put something in my description while I'm on live. It's the very first time I've ever done it. So what else do I need to mention before I wrap up? Oh my goodness, it's already 12:37. Are you kidding me? I need to wrap up, you guys. I'm going to have to go over my notes later. I don't know if I'll be able to do a video later today. Probably not, because it's Saturday and there's just a lot going on with the family. And, you know, I love them just as much as I love you guys. But I'm going to wrap up quickly so I can get to my daughter's volleyball game. So thank you so much for being here. And have a really good day. Take care of yourselves. Drink your water. Eat your produce and your protein. And I will see you on the next one. Love and light.